Newly stocked on the shelves is box number 512 with your hosts Aeon
and the Lioness,
Black,
trans
women,
women, and excellent.
and defying all life expectations.
The show begins
Now. Welcome to episode 7 of Box Number 512 podcast, Grown Black Trans Women Talk. Honey, I'm just so happy to be back, Lioness.
Woo.
I'm happy to hear your voice because I heard
here.
Because I heard that the state of Georgia reopened on Friday, and I feel sorry for the girls in the red states, honey, because it feels like the GOP is trying to take the girls out of here, honey. So I'm happy you're still here with us, honey.
I am glad to still be present and alive and available in the land, because to be honest, these people is losing their mind, girl. There's been so many articles. There's been people, like, we could drive on the street sometimes and you can pass by a park and it is so many people. It is ridiculous. It's like, so you do realize that even if you want to say fuck fuck being inside, you're still supposed to social distance. So it's actually insane to me, the amount of people that are congregating just in general, like even in public spaces. Like I had the unfortunate chore of having to go and do some emergency shopping this week, and we've been keeping it very, very scarce. But I had to go in because a bitch had to get some shit. And of course I had all of my gear on and I was fine. But I get in there and not only is there no gear, people have not only are they are not social distancing. I don't know what it is, but I feel like my people think that it cannot happen to them. I can't tell you how many elderly were just hanging out in the store with empty buggies just so they could be someplace. And I get we're bored, but it's just like, damn, like every place is packed, and that is ridiculous to me.
Right. And I know I threw shade to the state of Georgia and the GOP, but I really can't talk much because that video came out from that house party in Chicago.
Ooh,
through by those the black people that I'm assuming to be cishet. I know we shouldn't make assumptions, but girl, read the room.
It looked like a queer bunch.
Right. It didn't, we're on Bigo and stuff. We're having virtual balls. So when I saw that video, I was like, damn, I can't even make fun of y'all now.
Bigo. So explain. So let me say, I am a part of a Bigo family. Shout out to Tribe of Ashe. I joined Bigo a month or so ago, and it seems like they play a lot of games. It was around the time of COVID, and I think we were trying to come together. And shout out to Amani, like I said, Amani Fakwa. That's my dear sister. But anyway, I find I was overwhelmed with the platform because I joined with people that were very, very, very into it. And so as I was learning something new, I didn't understand. It's a learning curve to me to get like what's going on, kind of. I think London, believe it or not, excuse me, I'm sorry. The way she's using it, that helped me understand it better, that you could use it as a way to hold panels and discussions. The family that I'm a part of, they use it, and there's a lot of it seems like it's a lot of discussion, but I think you gotta kind of have, but it's not like we're doing a lot of talking. It's more of like, oh, what you about to do? What you about to do? What you about to do? And so I love it. I want to learn more, but you're talking so well of it that you're gonna force me to delve deeper. So that's not shade to anybody. That's just my own learning curve. I just have to learn, like, what is it? Why is it so important that I'm sitting here with 9 people watching them do what?
But no, Bigo is very visually intense because there's a lot of stuff going on. But I really I go on. It's Bigo for me is very ballroom scene heavy, so it's a lot of girls from ballroom on there. So there are panel discussions. There are also ballroom media personalities interviewing people. So I go on there for that. And as of recently, I really only came up and become interactive. Shout out to my cousin, Courtney Juicy Balenciaga. She hosts Shazam games on the Bigo platform. So basically we play Shazam. Basically she plays the music and we have to guess like who the song is, who the artist is, or we have to sing she'll play a little bit and then we'll have to sing the rest of the lyrics. And it's a elimination style game. So I've been going on there. Yes, I'm TS the Biggie Smalls on the Bigo platform. And no shade, I've been
do you care? Like, well, I was gonna ask that. So like, I have a name that I am on there as a part of the group that I'm on. Does your name have to be for everything? Is it the same name, or can you have more than one account?
I don't know if you can have more than one account. I just know I was, because I think when you first get on there, it adopts your name from Facebook. But I just changed mine to TS Biggie Smalls because I thought it was a kid, and I knew
Now explain that to me though, because girl, I've been meaning to ask that myself, and I'm just what like. What was your psychology behind the name?
I just thought it would be a key. Like TS the Biggie Smalls. Like it's a key. And my cousin Courtney, when I first came up and the girls didn't know who I was, and then I told her, she was like, "Work, bitch, I live for that. TS Biggie Smalls." And I like hearing the girls, specifically the girls from New York, say it with their accent, because they really
Yes, I get it. Yes.
It's a key. But
okay.
TS Biggie Smalls has been wearing the girls out on Shazam. You guys know that I'm a music lover, specifically R&B music. I have a very intimate knowledge of many things.
I don't know if you could beat me though, sis. I don't know if you could beat me though. See, that's really why I'm excited about Miss Bigo or learning it.
Well, I've been beating the girls, and I won 15. So if you win the game, it's $5 a game. So I won $15 this weekend.
Bitch, you won that many games? 5, 10, 15. I bet you won right.
And then I won an additional $15 last night. And even if I don't win, I typically make it to like the last 2 battles. So it's 3 rounds. And like after you eliminate 3 people, it goes to the second round. And then once you get to the last 2, that's the third round. So it's a key. It's really been helping me pass the time. Also, I've been able to meet different people and get to know different people because you kind of build camaraderie on a platform, or you talk shit or you talk shade, but it's all in fun. It's not like some of the other Bigo platforms where the girls just be reading each other, and it's like this thing, like why are you going? Why is your voice? Why is the octave so high? Why are you going off? No, over one.
No shade, girl. I would like to follow those people as well. So offline, pass me some of these names of people I should be, following. Because, girl, I need to get into queer and community thinking in spaces. So, like, it's so funny because a large part of, and I think this will segue into like our topic too eventually, but like a large part of my social media or identity has been about maintaining a certain image for work. Mm-hmm. And as I'm transitioning to being an entrepreneur and my business ventures and my own nonprofit is starting to do its thing, I'm learning to be that it is okay to be my full queer space online. You know what I mean? Like you posted something recently and like I debated for like 17 hours on whether or not I wanted to comment on it, just strictly off of, I'm like, who could be viewing what I'm about to say in a way that would make me feel away? Does that make sense?
Right.
What was this? Well, girl, I guess this could be a segue into one of our topics for our just out of the box segment or whatever today. You mentioned, so my sister is very, very, I find since she's graduated from law school, and I don't know what that's about, but my sister is very, very online now. She's increasing her awareness and definitely deepening her ideological perspective and sharing it with others about her queerness and how it shows up in spaces and how she shows up as a woman. There's a certain, I admire it, Brianna, I want to say really fast. I really admire the fact that you're allowing online right now the opportunity to really expand yourself. There were whole periods where you would have to like shut down your social media. And being your sister, I always felt a way about that because I was like, your voice is so powerful and you are able to conduct conversations in a way that I feel like our community needs. But I understood the need for you to retain a certain amount of disconnect and sanity from the computer. So I respected it. But on the flip side, sis, I am so glad now that you are out and you're putting your perspective out there. And you posted this picture that was pretty provocative. Can you tell us a little bit about this post?
So one of the trans groups had posted a picture of this trans woman in her kitchen pouring her coffee. And in the picture, she has her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She has on a sports bra, and she has on a pair of biker shorts. Well, in
Cute
the
pink
biker,
pair.
a pink pair of biker shorts. Well, in the picture, in the biker shorts, you can visibly see her bulge, which signifies that this is a trans woman that is either non-op or pre-operative, and who's just making a cup of coffee in the kitchen in the morning. So apparently,
it was a pretty prominent bulge, and
right.
so because I want to give people the idea, it wasn't like she was trying to tuck. She was at home in a state of comfort, but she was completely untucked.
Right. So apparently, when the picture was posted or on the original post, there was a lot of hate against her for having her bulge out, showing her bulge.
A lot of in-community hate too.
Right. It was. I'm assuming I didn't go and actually read through the comments. That's something that I've made a habit of, like, not going to trigger myself. But like, we already know what it's going to be. So like, why even put myself in that situation? But I decided to share the picture. Now, I'm going to be honest. It was something that I had reservations about sharing. One, I know how that picture and that particular topic polarizes our community, one. And also, I know that, particularly on my social media, I have a lot of cis het people that follow me, a lot of people from my legal world. And the legal world is very conservative. And I know that if people don't openly say something, I know in their mind they feel some type of way. Because I feel like a lot of them feel like they've gotten to know me. They may or may, well, they will know that I'm trans just from how I carry myself and my politics and how I present myself. But I think some of them are cool with me being trans if I present it in a respectable way. And I knew that picture,
respectability politics,
right?
yes.
And I knew that picture, even though I know that there's nothing salacious about that picture, just the fact that picture is visible and there's a possibility of them having an adverse response to it because of their values or their mores or how they categorize stuff is going to push them over the edge. So I had slight hesitation about sharing it, but clearly I did.
And so, yes, to that point, my sister did not just share it, but she actually wrote under it quite a declarative statement about how the picture affected you, what you were trying to say as far as the picture's message, but you also were very vulnerable about you being non-op. You were very vulnerable to share about how you felt that like our bodies are politicized, and it was a very intense post. So I want people to, if you follow Brianna Jenkins on Facebook, you will be able to see that she shared this post today, 4/28/2020. So if you just want to go back and check that out, she did a really, and it provoked a very interesting dialogue. And we wanted to kind of lead with that as one of our topics because this is something in the community that we deal with that is very, 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 very contentious. And like Brianna said a minute ago, it's something that I think we're all hesitant to share about ourselves because there's a bit of vulnerability, because a lot of who we are, a lot of the entire being that we are is getting people to see beyond our genitalia. So a big strategy of survival, one of the first things you learn in becoming trans and going through this process, the first rite of passage for a lot of us was learning to hide our penises.
Right.
I wasn't even going to say male genitalia because women have penis. I think we need to say that and be able to sit in that clearly there is enough evidence over a thousands of years period that there are some beings in society that choose for whatever reason to live in gender roles opposite of their assigned sex. And to continue to label whole beings by their genitals is problematic. So I don't even want to say male genitalia. I would like to say penis.
Oh, but even before, now it's coming back to me. The reason why I shared it is because somebody who I'm friends with, who I won't say her name on this platform, and I want her to know that it's no shade. But the reason I shared it is because I saw her share it, and when she shared it, she was reading. I didn't even read what she said. I just saw the throwing up emoji, and because I know her, and because I know that she's post-op, and because I've heard stuff that she said about trans women who are pre-op and men who are attracted to pre-op trans women, like I've heard her say they're pedophiles, like they're abusers, they're molesters, they're gay, and just that whole rhetoric.
I rebuke that whole ideology in the name of anything that will listen.
That's why I shared it, because I wanted, not only did I want to share my truth, but I wanted to create a dialogue where trans women and trans femmes, only trans women, and I opened it up to the non-people of color, where we could talk about this and have constructive, because I know that there are people on various sides of this issue. I just wanted to put where I stood and kind of be something to counter that, because when the girl that shared it, and she actually commented on my thing, because I made a comment, she had commented and said, well, what mental notes are you taking about people that shared it? I'm like, well, sis, I'm at the point where clearly you feel how you feel, and I'm not here to change that. All I'm telling you is that you should be mindful of the things that you say and what you're putting out there, because you could be intending to just say something in reference to you, but it could take out somebody else.
Exactly. So back to what I was saying about because I want to be able to give my opinion too, but I also want to give people some context into why this opinion comes up. I want to give them the root of the opinion. So where we are in that moment where we learn to now tuck and hide ourselves, we have to then undergo a process. And the problematic thing is that the process that we have had to undergo only rewards one type of identity. So if I'm a trans woman and I have a penis, and I would like to undergo a process to become more feminine, I have to then go to a doctor, and I have to enter into a medical standard called the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care. And that is so problematic, because it rewards trans women who have extreme dysphoria and do not want their genitals and would like to have the surgery. It rewards them with the label as transsexual, and they are then allowed to get hormones and go through a process. Now, the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care existed for a period of time, but we've now evolved to the World Health Standards, the WPATH standards. And those are more liberal, and they do allow trans women who don't want the surgery to have access to hormones. But what that problematic Harry Benjamin ideology did was it put in our heads from the very beginning, and it also made the world believe that if you did not hate all parts of yourself, that if you do not loathe your genitalia, that you are not a woman. Even though you spiritually, socially, psychologically, even politically align yourself with woman, and you've never not done that, you are not a woman if you don't want to have something chopped off between your legs, if you don't want to undergo a surgery. That's dismissing all the people who, for medical reasons, spiritual reasons, physical reasons, cannot get the surgery. So what ends up happening is you have what Brianna was demonstrating with her friend, this dynamic of a trans woman who has had the privilege of being able to acquire either the money from herself or the government to get her surgery. Now looking down on the very community that she comes from, because we all cannot afford it. Make no mistake, people, this is a game of money. This is a medical industrial complex. And it starts with a lot of the nonprofits, which is what our topic is about today, our main topic. But particularly in this context, what Brianna's demonstrating is the way in which privilege has now crept into identity. And we are policing how people show up based on how much money you have. Because the bottom line is, if I can't afford surgeries, period, I should still be considered a woman. But the problem is that because these standards of care have now prioritized and made certain groups of people feel entitled and privileged, we now can look down on others. And this is me now speaking from someone that is considered a part of the privileged group, in the sense that I have had surgeries and I have had to go through Harry Benjamin standards of care to get where I am. But now, all of the surgeries that I have don't mean that I've had these surgery, because I don't necessarily think that we're at a place where that's the best option.
Right.
But in being transparent, it should not matter. And that's the point that I think my sister did when she put up the post. It should not fucking matter what's between someone's legs, because at the end of the day, you would never know if I had the surgery unless I told you, because you're not looking in between my fucking legs. And if you are, we have bigger fish to fry, darling.
But okay. I think it's even deeper than that. I think the
take
thing
us deeper, sis. Take us there, girl. Yeah,
I think I think the thing that like really and it doesn't concern me for myself, because I have grappled with that discomfort. And for me, I got into the place in my dysphoria and just because I disclose this does not mean that it is okay to come to approach me about it and to talk to me about it, or to assume this of every trans woman. This is my story and I'm choosing to disclose this. But as somebody that is not operative, that has a penis, that does not desire to get gender confirmation surgery, I'm okay with being that type of woman. Like, I am still a woman spiritually, physically, even though my body is queer. Like, I'm fine with that. I think the thing that makes me uncomfortable and what I see in community that kind of like makes me want to push back is that you have women in our trans women in our community that have bodies just like that girl, that have no plans on getting bottom surgery, that live their lives as women with penises, that looking at something that's a reflection of themselves triggers so many types of emotions, makes them feel uncomfortable, makes them not want to acknowledge it. And in turn, they kind of take that out on the community around you. But it's just like, sis, maybe we should like turn inwards and see, why is this image making us so uncomfortable? Why is this making us like, I know girls that are non-op that when you try to talk about them being trans or bitch, they break down crying. And it's just like, sis, what is the deeper issue? And I get it. We fight for privacy. Like, we fight for privacy. We have the right to privacy. We have the right to not answer questions that we don't want to answer. And we have the right to live our lives autonomously. I get it.
But we also don't have the right to police other people's rights.
Right.
And how they choose to exercise them.
Right.
I'm sorry, sis. I didn't mean to cut you off, but bitch, you are speaking to my spirit. Go ahead, girl.
No, we don't have the right to police other people, but I think even deeper than that, we should be trying to move to a place. Like, it's so much fear talk I hear from community when it's like, well, what if they know, or what if they fight? It's so much fear, and I get it, but it's like, don't we as a community want to move past like that fear? You think it's not holding you back in other areas of your life, but it is. It is.
Can I say this though, sis? And
yes.
Maybe this is a dissenting opinion even.
Okay.
I think that it is coming from a place of privilege for you to even be able to say that, because you show up in the space, and this is keeping it real, because I know there are girls that know you personally and that see how pretty you are. You come from a place where the question is never really asked unless you even introduce that you're trans to the conversation. Mm-hmm. So as you're navigating the world, no one's actually wondering if she still has her penis, because they don't even think you have a penis.
Right.
So I honestly think that it is for you because you don't have to, because you don't operate under the badge of transness as you navigate. For you, it is freeing and liberating, and it is not a threat or a thing that you should be afraid of because it's not something that it's on its face.
Right.
For some of us that are in community, and I'm speaking for, you know, me before I was able to get on hormones, girl. I'm speaking for a lot of girls out there. Like, there are, when you show up in the world and people are already taking your womanhood for granted, the very last thing you want them to do in a professional setting, around friends, even your own family, the last thing you want them to do is to think about what's between your legs. Because
Right.
they already are wondering if you a man anyway. The last bit of dignity you have is that they don't know what's between your legs. They can assume, but they don't know. And so I want to advocate for the girls out there that are navigating in the world where the last bit of mystery that they have is what's between their legs. So if you already are able to operate out of a piece of, like you and I, we're able to, we operate with privilege, sis, and we need to sit in that, because I wanna contextualize this conversation so we're not talking down to people that can't reach to where we are. Like, we're
Right.
self-actualized to a place where we understand that our beauty is beautiful no matter our transness. But it's also because, no shade, sis, the world has constantly affirmed that we're beautiful. There's no
Right.
time that we really don't go out looking nice that somebody don't tell us. I've been around you, girl. You're breathtaking, Miss Thing. So let's, because I want the girls.
No. I get it, and
Okay,
I acknowledge, and I'm one of them girls that I know that a lot of the things that I've been able to do and a lot of the doors that I've been able to access are because of my past, the level of past. I don't think I'm the most passable, but I know I will pass in privilege and I will beauty.
That's how I feel too. Same. Like, we know we can
So,
get through. Yeah.
so I know I can get in, but I'm just talking on a level when you at home by yourself and you have to look. And I'm not talking about the girls that have severe dysphoria, because like I also said on the post, dysphoria is a spectrum. I'm talking.
It is. Now, you know what, sis? That was something that was really, that even struck me, was because I was like, we have to stop. And that's what the Harris Benjamin Standards of Care did. It made it either you're extremely
Binary.
euphoric or you're not a woman.
Yeah, it made it a binary, and we
It made it
know.
so binary.
And don't get it twisted. Just because I accept myself as a non-operative trans woman does not mean that I do not still experience some level of gender dysphoria. I do. Like I said, I have pairs of privilege, but I'm a bigger girl. I have I'm taller. I have larger hands and larger feet. So I do experience dysphoria, but it's not so severe that I don't identify with the genital, my assignment at birth. It's not that severe. And what I'm saying is we should create a space where we see a picture like that and it's not so triggering that we're having these adverse reactions to the point that we're publicly vilifying and demonizing people that are a part of our community.
And I want to say this too, and this is because we think this is a gimmick, because I know also there's a population of our community that's trans. So let's have a little sister talk. And for those of you that are listening in, stay with us, but we're gonna have a moment. Girl, you're gonna have to let them girls breathe, Miss Thing. And
right.
let me tell you why. Because at the end of the day, whether you want to have the surgery or you don't want to have the surgery, this was a trans woman in her house, allowing herself to be in a position where she's the most comfortable. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not, it's still attached to you, Miss Thing. And what you're gonna want to do is make sure that she's still in working order and is healthy, clean, and free of disease, scents, bacteria, and growths. Miss Thing, you have to let her breathe. And trapping her in a gaff or trapping her in a panty all day long, bound up, is going to lead to all kinds of issues.
And no shade, girls were acting like she was fully erect, like stroking her meat on the counter. And it was like, so the fact that the reaction was so extreme when you put into the context, like it was just a bulge. It was just her, like the fact that reaction was so extreme to me signifies something deeper. And that's why I knew my position, but I know people have other positions and I'm very respectful of that. And that's why I wanted to curate that conversation, because because the girls with sex changes are the ones typically in control because they are the closest to cisness, they dominate a lot of these conversations, and no shade, they shut it down. Like they silence girls who are not. And that's how, like, so when I saw the throw up emoji, I was like, no ma'am. No ma'am.
It's a direct attack directly at you, you know.
Right.
And
even though she wasn't coming at me, that's the that's just the nature of the game when we're posting stuff on social media and other people can see it.
And then to the women to the trans women that are listening, sis, you also want to get to the place where you are not living in constant self-loathing. And I don't want to judge anybody's process, and I don't know what that means for each individual, but I can only speak that for me, a part of me being able to affirm myself was getting to the place where I no longer was disgusted at the sight of myself. Right. And I just want to put that golden nugget out there.
Right. Say it again, sis.
You have to, in order to really, truly, truly get to the place where you love yourself, you have to understand that you have to get to the place where you do no longer operate like you dislike yourself. You cannot look at yourself and hate yourself and think that that is a long-term healthy strategy for success. Sis, you have to get to the place where even if you still want the surgery, you love yourself enough that you don't hate the sight of yourself. Because if you hate the sight of yourself, that is going to radiate out. That is going to affect how you be. It's going to affect how you show up in the world. And I think that we are a community that needs to learn how to love ourselves, not for the potential of what we think we're going to be, not for what I'm going to look like when I get my next surgery, because that's how we also end up having these crazy surgeries and we can never find ourselves. It's because no one ever told us it's just okay to love yourself enough to look in the mirror for right now and say, I am beautiful and I am wonderfully and fearfully made. And even my flaws, perceived flaws, are beautiful. And I just wanted to put that nugget out there because I know there's some women that, and I am one of them, I am never happy with what I see fully in the mirror. And there's nothing no one can say to me. I know that I am beautiful, but I have this image that I desire to see, that I have yet to see. But I have had to learn that I will always be a fragmented, broken person waiting for someone else, some surgeon to complete me and put me together if I don't learn to love myself as I am right now. And that is why the lioness is the bitch she is. And that's why I say I paid the cost to be the boss, because I had to divorce myself of a future that is not promised to accept the now that I'm living in.
And I think we will revisit this conversation in depth on a later episode, because again, it's just so many ways we could go, and there's just so many other layers we need to add.
Girl, yes, this is the whole build out.
But I felt like I wanted to bring this up because despite what other side people were on, I was just happy that we as trans folk, trans feminine folk, were able to come together and have this conversation and go back and forth and, respect. And I intentionally wanted to curate a respectful conversation. I didn't want anybody to feel attacked but I'm just happy that I was able to facilitate the conversation, and and I'm happy that cis folks respected the rules and stayed out. It's like, it's okay for you to watch, but y'all don't have to, we don't need the question. Like, just give us the space to talk this out, because we really don't have that. Right?
Yeah.
And before we get off this topic, I just want to give a message to the non-binary trans women out there, because we are out there. You are valid. You are valid. And this is more beyond you just being beautiful. Your body, as queer as it may be, it is valid. It is valid. Just because you have a penis and you're a woman, that doesn't mean you're still a woman. You're still navigating the world as a woman. You still feel that you're a woman. And that stuff doesn't matter. And me as a non-operative trans woman, and for the community that I represent, we deserve to be affirmed as well. And no shade, visual images are so important. we need to see people that look like us in visual representations. I remember how you were telling me how I had the pictures you sent me of the artist that's drawn the plus size woman with the men. Like I need to see that, because I'm not no thin white cis woman, and I feel like imaging it doesn't get enough credit. Like on my laptop thing, I have images of big fat black women, non-binary. I mean, not non-binary. Not operative. Like for me, I visually need to see what I represent reflected back to me. That's how I empower myself. That's how I counter all of the anti-everything messaging. And I think just like the Janet Mox and Laverne Cox, how they're propped up, we need the women, the trans women that are happy with what they have and that are showing what we need. The T.S. Madisons. We need like the visual of it.
Shout out to T.S. Madison.
Yeah, we need it. We need it. Yes, it's not just one way. It just doesn't show up one way. So I'm happy we were able to bring out this conversation. We had other things we were going to talk about, but I think we should just get into the main topic for the day. So
this topic today is one that, for those of you, if you're not in community, this episode is going to give you a real insight into the fight behind this movement that you see. A lot of you go on and on in your mind, in your spirit, about this gay agenda. And you look at sometimes the faces that they thrust forward, and you judge them based on them being the physical face you see, and you don't realize that behind them is an entire inner working of something that is a movement that sometimes we don't even have control over. And so today, for those of you who are not in community, you're going to hear a little bit of insider baseball about how the nonprofit industrial complex uses and affects our community. Now, for those of us who are in community, the topic is basically, girl, we got the job. We did what you asked us to do. You got what you wanted, and you paid it. You threw me to the side. You disparaged my name. You used my resources, but you did not give me credit. You somehow found a way to take the sparkle of having a Black trans being at the helm or in the leadership, because it's very rare that we're allowed at the table, but when we do, we bring some dynamic shit. And a whole movement now has been born out of our labor, and we now have been disinherited from the thing we built. And this episode is to talk about the issues and the systems of oppression and the things that have affected our experiences navigating in nonprofit world. Because it's happening. You hear about this movement, you hear about all of this money, you hear about all of these orgs, you hear about all of these programs, and you see these trans women get in these positions, and you see us on lives talking lofty with these titles, going to conferences, you see us moving, and it looks like we are really, really, really making things happen, and that we're really, really being supported. When in actuality, we are props, and a lot of times, we are used and we are treated in a way that is less than our fullness, because people want to get what they want to get out of us. So we're going to unpack this today, and this may take more than one episode.
Yeah, and I think this topic is important because I feel like it impacts Black trans women in a particular way that I haven't seen impact other races of trans women.
Speak on that.
I just feel like the things that we're talking about, I can just go down the list of other Black trans women I know that have been through the same thing, not just even in the city where I'm from, Baltimore City, but Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Dallas. Like, this is something that is prevalent to like the Black trans woman experience, but because our community is so divided and so fractured, and a lot of times these nonprofit organizations help create those fractures or help make sure those fractures continue to happen. We don't have the opportunity to share space to really discuss the ways that we've been abused, mistreated, exploited by these systems. And what ends up happening is the same cycles perpetuate themselves, and it happens over and over and over again. So I really feel like it's power. And the Lioness and myself, we're not even from the same city, but once we became friends and once we started to talk about our experiences, and I don't even think you knew I worked at an organization, and likewise, I didn't know you worked at one, but when we talked about it, it was like, bitch, like, how is it that we didn't even live in the same city, but we both had similar experiences going through the same systems?
And that's those experience, and you did a wonderful. What I love about us is actually that's why when I held on to that you just talked just a minute ago, because bitch, you were walking it right to this point, which is let's talk about those cycles, the experiences. You talked about this dynamic of them like seeing us.
Well, even before I get that, I think it would be beneficial if we give like the story of our time, like how we got the job. Clearly, we're not going to give names, but what the job entailed, how we got the job,
what I was saying. Yes, girl.
And then how shit started to go down.
Yeah, bitch. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Walk us through the cycle by using your own experience as a model. So like, you go ahead and share yours, and then I'll share mine.
Okay, so even before I got the job, I graduated from Morgan State with a bachelor's of marketing in May 2011. And at the time, I didn't have any job prospects. I was still working at my college job at CVS, making like eight something an hour. No job prospects. And because of my undergraduate experience, that I really wasn't prepared to get a job, or nobody really poured into me in a way that I would be set up at least after undergrad, but that's a whole nother topic. But making $8 an hour, didn't have a job. So like around October, I started hearing rumblings that, this organization, they're starting a program for trans women. And coincidentally, my last year of my undergrad, that's when I started really getting involved in trans activism. And that's really when the seed started to be planted that I wanted to be a part of the movement or whatever was going on at that time, like in the early 2010s, 2011. So October came, I heard about the opening for this job. I applied, but even before I applied, it was another Black trans woman that ran it. And she had this reputation of, well, don't trust her. She steals money from the girls, la, 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 la. And I heard stuff about the ED who ran it, who's a Black cis woman. But me being who I am and knowing how the girls talk, especially about Black trans women who are educated, I was like, yeah, y'all are saying this, but I'm going to go and see for myself, because that's just the type of person I am. And I know how community is. So I went, met her, interviewed her, heard about the program. Essentially, the organization received like this multi-million-dollar grant to implement this like HIV prevention program for Black trans women, and they built the org wanted to build programming so they could implement the grant. So I was coming in on the ground to be a part of a team to really outreach to the Black trans woman community. And just like a little bit of a side note, trying to, especially in the HIV world, trying to engage with the Black trans woman community is very hard and difficult. And you will always need somebody from that community to come and work the programs, because just putting any old body to engage with the trans community, if you don't have somebody from that community, you are probably not going to get the engagement that you could get. But that's also a double-edged sword, which we'll probably get later too in this episode. But interviewed for the job, got the job, and the fact that I just graduated and I had my college degree, and the other trans woman who was my supervisor, she was also college educated. We had the ingredients for success. And also I was going to be making like $17 an hour. That's the most money I had ever made in my life at that time. And
that was cute for back then, girl. Yeah.
Right. So like all things were go. So basically I was hired as a health educator, and I did the basic like in creating this programming, hosting groups, HIV testing, the whole nine. And shit was great for like the first couple of months. So I'm gonna stop my story right there. Lioness, let's talk about the origins of your story and how you got to that particular job that you were at.
So my story, I'm just in the interest of time, I'm not gonna be as deep. And also it's really unfortunate, but this is still a very small community here in Atlanta, in the South, in the Southeast, and I still have to work very closely with a lot of folk. And so I have to be very conscious of how I share my story, because I need to respect not even that, but respect the innocent. Because I don't want to specifically, because it's easy to piece together where I've worked for the people that know me, and so I don't want to. And I know girls that are working very hard to change the images of places that still are operating.
Oh, so your place is still up and running?
Correct.
So my place, because of other things they were doing, they were eventually shut down before I left to move to Chicago. So totally understand.
And a lot of the people that I'm talking to, so the nonprofit that I work with has impacted a lot of community. And so there are a lot of girls that are listening now that have also worked for this organization and maybe feel away. But I also want to respect their legacy by making sure I'm careful on how I share, because it also encompasses so many other people.
Right.
So in going into that, I'll say that I worked for nonprofits, and my experiences have been that these organizations, when I first came into this world, I was a graduate of Georgia State University, and but in my senior year, I took it was a research methods course. And as a part of it, we had to do half of the semester where we met at the class only like once or twice a week to do like book work, but we were mostly at our they assigned us nonprofit organizations to work with, and we were given projects to work with different organizations. So I got placed with an HIV/AIDS nonprofit because I had a beautiful teacher that knew that it was important for me, because I had already transitioned by then. And she was just one of those like secret allies. Like she immediately called, I will never forget, when I first started that semester, that year, my name was in the process of being changed. And so it was still on the roll at school. And I remember she saw, I went up to her. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I gotta go. Yeah, keep on talking. I just have to turn my phone off. Somebody called me. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm trying not to lose my train of thought. Okay. Yes. So anyway, this particular teacher was just an ally, and she was very helpful. And I knew from the very first day I met her, when she knew to not call my full name out in class. She just said she knew like to just respect me enough not to really read me out. And so it was just, we had like a moment. And from then she was kind of a quiet ally, and we never had the conversation. But when she was placing us for internships, she wanted to place me at an organization that was trying to develop a trans program. So I was able to do my project for the research part for the class for a separate thing for the semester. But I was introduced to these folk who then hired me on after I graduated, and I had an experience with that particular nonprofit. Had a wonderful experience with them, but it was short-lived because I was hired by this nonprofit that I had the problems with. Now, this was my first, like Brianna, this was my first truly professional job out of school. This was a situation where I thought I was being told, because when you come in at the beginning of something, you know, everyone has fought, first of all, to make whatever you're trying to be a part of happen. So you have people that showed up to fight. Well, people who are warriors aren't necessarily creators. They aren't necessarily visionaries. Sometimes warriors come up and they're just fighters. And I feel like sometimes we start these things, and that's the root of it too, right? We start these things out of a need and out of a drastic situation, or sometimes even just out of the feeling like the larger community doesn't care about something. So then that births this baby of a nonprofit and to fight this cause. The issue with that though is that they a lot of times will rely on us, Black trans women, to come in. So I was a part of the original crew that came in and helped develop this program that then went on to get funding, that then went on to get all this clout. I went and began to do things in community that were wonderful, beautiful things. I was able to train at all levels to people at all levels of society, but I developed the intellectual content that I delivered. I developed the programming that then went forward and became something beautiful. And I am proud of that. And that has happened more than once to me in community. But the flip side of that is that a lot of my girls know where I'm going with this. You get in the job and then they begin to mistreat you because they think they did you a favor by including you in a movement that they built on your back. So then you are a second-class citizen in a nonprofit organization that you helped develop. You are not treated with the same dignity because all these people, while they were fighting for the cause, they still come with their own biases based on how they were raised, based on their own privilege. And they don't understand what it is to be Black trans in America. And so a lot of times they judge us. The very people they say they were trying to help, they judge us as not qualified. So I'm doing you a favor already, baby. I'm doing you a favor. So even though we are giving our gift, we are giving our talent, we are expending the energy, we are your face, you are marketing on our backs. And then on the flip side, you think you're better than me. That's the part of it. So I was a part of a nonprofit that used and exploited my image, likeness, and intellectual property several times, not just one nonprofit, so I can't even be shady. The reality of it is it's rampant in our community. That's why we're having this conversation. We're having this conversation, so I can't even put it on one. So I'm gonna spread that out because, bitch, it's like that shit is everything. It's everywhere. And the problem is that we get exploited because you judge us and you look down on us. And so then as I'm navigating through my career, I had this insecurity in my own skill set because then those same people are saying, well, who else gonna hire you? Well, I know you need this job. Well, I'm gonna reduce your hours because you know, we really would let you go, but we'll reduce your hours. And the goal was never to pay me the full amount anyway.
No.
The goal was never to keep me on long term.
It was to use you to get the big grant. And then once the money was good, to fire you, to bring in another bitch to pay them half of what they were paying you.
Half
so
or
they
less.
can pocket the money.
The game girls. And that speaks to the other part of it, Brianna.
Well, let me get back to my story. Let me get it back.
Girl,
and like I said, I feel empowered to talk about my organization because they were eventually shut down. They are no longer an organization. So when I first came onto the job, it was like a dream team, bitch. It was a motherfucking dream team. You had 3 Black college-educated trans women. I was like in my early 20s. I can't remember what exact age. I was early 20s, fresh out of Morgan. My supervisor, college-educated, in her mid-30s, grant writer, talented, helped them to secure the grant. Another trans woman, older, my mentor, Monica, there, helping to facilitate the groups, had that social talent. And then, bitch, we had a piece of trade there as eye candy to get the girls to come into the group that was girl-friendly, knew the community, would drive the van, would do so, like, had the executive director not been in our way, we really could we really had the tools to.
Cause now, bitch, y'all was smart for having trade involved. Now, bitch,
right.
even if they want, bitch, they'll listen, girl. They'll follow him just for the dick, Miss Thing. What and then go get a whole blessing on the way, cause they would. But if you offered the services, they wouldn't come, bitch. But just cause it's a fine piece, that's sad to say, but a lot of us will go around that.
Right, a fine, like older piece of trade, you know, had a little checkered past, but he was weather enough to where.
Girl, that never stops it.
no, he was weather enough to know where we knew he wouldn't get caught up in the girls because he knew the game, he knew the ins and the outs.
Girl, I live for how you said checker pass.
Yeah, girl, you know, I don't want to put all his tea out there.
All the way on, bitch.
But buff, muscles, you know, the whole nine.
Look, how do you think he discovered his love for this woman?
Right, but that's another topic. Anyway. But we had and so the first like year was supposed to be like the implementation. So we weren't like fully up in the ground, but we were trying to implement stuff to make the program successful, make the program running. So like around spring of the following year, that's when all the shit started to hit the fan. So like basically in a nutshell, like the team as a whole, or I'm at least know from my perspective, it was one of them situations where the executive director, where she hired us because we were trans, but once we actually came in and were showing that we were smart, it was like, oh bitch, y'all are really educated. Y'all are too smart. Y'all are smarter than me. So then like weird shit started to happen where she would just keep switching our schedules and we couldn't do this and we couldn't do that. And her and my supervisor were getting into it. And bitch, it got so bad that she fired the piece of trade and then brought in this other girl from community. Then she fired my supervisor.
Why?
And
why so many firings? Like what? I mean, just
she was, everybody said she was crazy. I don't think she was crazy. I think this was part of her plan all along. She fired my supervisor who brought me in. Then she fired Monica. So like by the time summer hit, we're still in implementation stage and I'm the only original bitch there. And she was just very erratic, and it was one of them situations where I could tell she really didn't like me. And like, no shade, it was I was very depressed. I had anxiety because on one end, I have this erratic ED who I'm trying to please, who I know doesn't like me. I'm trying to work this program, but then I have the trauma of losing all of the people that I came in with. They're gone. So I'm also thinking, bitch, when is my time going to come, or how is it going to happen? And then on the other end, I still have to interface and be a face for community. So by the time the summer hit, bitch, my morale had got down so bad and so low. And then how she really turned it is the lady that she brought in to replace, well, she didn't to replace Monica. She promoted her and made her the ED for the program. And she's giving the orders, but she really doesn't know what she's doing. So me and her are getting into it because she's yelling at me. And it was just a mess. It was a mess. And so eventually how everything happened is, in the way they did it, it was just so traumatic. And like other girls had went through this. It was, bitch, I never forget the day I got fired from that place. It was like, it was April 12th, 2012, bitch.
Oh, but you're giving the transcript, Miss Thing.
Like, okay, no. Like, it was very, like, it was one of them situations. And like, girl, have never been fired from a job before. Before that, bitch, I was working on like at CVS for like 3 fucking years, bitch, while I was in, like, I was the girl in undergrad. I always had a job. So, and you know me, I'm a worker type of bitch. And you know me on a business level, I'm a builder. And also at that time, that was kind of when I was still like at the tail end of my YouTube stuff. So I had the popularity. So people were coming into the groups or coming to be numbers because they were like, bitch, I saw you on YouTube or I follow you. So that was also going on. But going back to when I was fired, Bitch, I was fired on August 12th, 2012, bitch. And like it wasn't even that I was fired, bitch. It was the way that I was fired. Like, and you know that you'll be fired because like if you have email access, like all of a sudden like your emails will stop working. Like you can't receive an email or you can't give an email. And then the new program director, she called me and it was given very much like, you need to come in and you need to, we need to talk. Or so, it was something like that. And I'm like, no, bitch, we can talk on the phone. Cause I kind of already know what's going on. But it was like, no, you need to come to talk. So then I came in to talk with them. Cause she told me, yeah, your email's been turned off. Don't come in, but come in at this time so we can talk. So bitch, I come in, bitch, do you know what the fuck they fired me for, bitch?
Wait, you feel comfortable? Wait, I don't even know I don't even know what she's finna say. Do you feel comfortable sharing that on here?
Yeah, bitch, they fired me, a college educator, bitch, that came to implement a program to benefit the trans community, the community that I'm a part of. They fired me because they accused me of stealing the new program director's phone, a Boost Android phone at that. When I had an Apple iPhone.
Wait, hold on. Can you walk? Wait. Okay, so wait. Let me not cackle, because I want people to know if you have a Boost, I see you, bitch. Wait, hold on. That didn't mean that laugh. It's just purely out of I can't believe they thought she stole a phone. It's not me laughing at the Boost part. But bitch, Miss Thing. Wait. So how could they wait? Because you can't just leave that there now, girl. Now, was it? They thought you just like a common pickpocketed this woman's phone,
right? They said I stole her phone, and that
I'm laughing because if you knew this bitch, there's absolutely no way. Oh, bitch, they tried you in the most major way.
Right. And bitch, and then like even when she fired me, I could tell she didn't want to do it, but it's like, bitch, you did it. And the thing that like even all of these years later, the thing that I'm
laughing because that is the most absurd. No, I have to give it a minute, girl, because I don't want people to think that I'm laughing. No, it's so absurd to me. If you ever had the beauty of being around this lady, it is absurd that grand bitch would be stealing a Boost phone this thing. It'd be just the audacity of such a thing. Like, girl, Miss Thing. Oh, girl, I'm sorry. I had to take a moment to finish my key in this thing.
No, but it was like the shade is, and like I said, even though like it happened that long ago, I still get like a little emotional about it. It's like, Miss Thing, y'all wanted to get rid of me that fucking bad that y'all accused me of stealing a fucking phone, and bitch, it just gets me emotional because like.
Let me ask you this, because this needs to be asked. Did you steal the phone?
No, I didn't steal the phone. I used the phone to check a fucking email that I thought was for me, that she gave me the phone to use. Bitch, I have an iPhone. Bitch, what the fuck I want a fucking Boost Android phone for? But it's like, in the grand scheme of things, and then even before I got fired, they just kept on bringing on new bitches to the team. So I already knew the writing was on the wall. But it was just like,
girl, yeah. When they get to the point, when the fact that they even entertain that bitch, yeah, the writing, right. God was removing you from a place where they didn't believe in you at all, Miss Thing.
Right. It's like, y'all wanted to get rid of me so bad because I was doing my job, or at least I was trying to do my job before the point of when all of the people that I came in with was fired, and I was just trying to do the best I could to get through. But it was just, and her energy was one of those people like, you're not going to get in. You're not going to get, because it was very much of, you're trans. What else can you get? Like, you can't get nothing better than this. And the whole shade about it was, this was a Black cis woman that was doing this under the guise of, I'm creating this program for you. And then when you have trans women that come in who are more than capable of doing the job, it's like you kind of dip them over to make money off of them, but you're not really invested in them growing as leaders or as professionals, or even growing away from you. Because after I was fired, but I can't even say I was fired because the bitch got unemployment. So, and you don't get unemployment if you're fired, like, because of something you did. So after I left, bitch, how they turned it is, they replaced me with somebody that was coming in the group getting services.
No, wait, now that's, I mean, if they felt that she was qualified, then, you know, more power. But I guess what I find interesting is, okay, so your narrative just now brought out a few elements that I think are worthy of exploring further. One of them, I think, is the fact that there is no belief in our capacity to do the thing that they hired us to do. So then when we began to do it, there's oftentimes who the fuck does this bitch think she is? We hired her, we gave her executive director title, but we really meant secretary and outreach coordinator. We did not mean actually having a fucking opinion about the direction of the organization that we're trying to make her the face of, or the program that we're trying to make her the face of. She has no right to have a say in how the work is done. We just want you to shut the fuck up and do what we say. And the problem is that you never really actually wanted anyone, because the reality of it is, we're not given these jobs. Let's be real. For those of us that have to start these things, a lot of times we go through processes that involve several writing samples and all kinds of first and second and third interviews and shit. They're not just handing us this job. We're qualified as fuck, and we all have to fight to get them. But when we get in there, they resent the fact that they've hired the intelligent bitch that they brought in. We resentful of you. How dare you get in this meeting and ask me a question, bitch? You're a transsexual. I brought you here to be beautiful. I brought you here to represent. I brought you here to shut the fuck up and be seen. And when I'm telling you what the fuck I want, need, or desire to get my job done, I need you to hear me, because you hired an executive director. Whether you wanted one or not, bitch, your hiring process was successful. You hired a boss bitch, and you're mad that she is one. And that is what I heard in your story, because there's absolutely no way that they honestly believed in who you were as a person and were invested in your future, that they would even entertain something like that without corroborating evidence or anything like that, just so they can say, because the reality of it is, they already see us as thieves. They already see us as liars. You already think that because I'm trans, I come from a background of not knowing nothing about nothing. So then you really, really are hiring me with this expectation that I fail. And then when I do something, or you feel a way about me, what you do? You revert to the lowest common denominator. You do like how the white community does Black people. And you look for reasons to let somebody go, and you don't invest. And let's be real. I have worked for nonprofits that have asked me to do the extreme in terms of staying up late, extreme in terms of being and doing outreach, the extremes in terms of all of this shit for free labor. But when I ask for simply something as small as the dignity and the right to be able to have an opinion about how we're doing this, you now start labeling me as difficult.
Right.
You now start labeling me as uppity.
Right.
You now have cast this narrative in community that I am a problem. And this is the problem. We are so thirsty in community for actual jobs, labor, and support, that when we see another girl in that situation, in a lot of cases, it's not, oh, let's rally around sister. It's, well, bitch, I could do it better than her anyway, and that bitch ain't doing it right. And let me help you take my sister down because I want to have the next crack at the job. Or I came after that bitch and I need to make my place in this community by disparaging the work that she did before me that I stand on the back of. Because there's a lot of bitches that don't know where they came from.
Hey y'all, this is Aeon.
This is the Lioness.
And you're listening to box number 512 podcast, Grown Black Trans Women Talk. And we just wanted to remind you guys while you're listening to subscribe, rate, comment, follow us on social media, and share our podcast. And we wanted to let you know that we just started a new feature, Grown Black Trans Women Talk Live, on our Facebook and our Instagram live pages. And I'm going to turn it over to the Lioness so she can tell you what to expect.
Yeah, so you can expect hot, new, exclusive content. You can expect us having conversations about living, loving, laughing in the pursuit of all of our successes. You'll be hearing us have enlightening conversations with other people. It's our way of connecting with you, our listener. We want to make it a multimedia experience. And so please follow us on Facebook Live and our Instagram Live for more exclusive content.
And now, back to box number 512 podcast, Grown Black Trans Women Talk.
And it ain't the person that's now telling you that you the fab one girl. It's the girl before you, the one that they read out, the one that they made like she was crazy, that came and did all that work before you got there. It's her that you standing on, bitch. So never forget, it's the community and all the people that have come before you and the things that they went through, good and bad, that inform who you are as a person.
Right.
And how you show up in the space. Because at the end of the day, what a lot of girls think is what happens to that girl won't happen to me. Right. She was this, and that, and I'm over here and I'm something completely different. And so they couldn't, she's less than me because she had a problem. And you don't realize, girl, you're next, girl. And guess what? For those of us who've been in the cycle, there'll always be a new bitch thinking that this nonprofit, you all of us were the problem and that I can do it differently than y'all bitches. And then you end up fired and join the rest of the group, bitch.
Right. And the shade is that the bitch that fired me, she ended up getting fired by the same lady like a couple months later.
Man, listen. You don't think they've been running that game since the beginning of the time? No shade. And I will say this, a lot of these nonprofits do a great job in attracting talented women. I'm going to say that again. These nonprofits actually do a great job in attracting talented women. They just don't intend to keep us to do anything for real, long-term towards the movement. No, that's not the goal. But they do a great job because I will tell you this, the one nonprofit that I'm talking of, I can list at least 10 leaders that I know come through that organization, have given their talents, got nothing out of it, but a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But they have gone on to be legends in this community. And I could name names, and I'm talking about some real heavy hitters, Miss Thing. We can attract the talent to these nonprofits and these orgs. We just don't know how to sustain the talent. And for the girls in the community, how can we do this work without cannibalizing one another to get the job and to keep the job?
Right. And it was just crazy because once I was able to leave, I was able to see even though these jobs are nonprofit or not even nonprofit, the medical the jobs at these health centers that cater to LGBT populations, because it's the same systems that are going on in there that are exploiting Black trans women. Even though these are nonprofit, they're still capitalist at its core. So a lot of times they're making their monies off of these grants. So they're writing these grants, trying to appeal to the sensibilities of these funders to get money for trans women. But then once they get the grants, all we ever are numbers, whether we're a client or whether we're working in the program. We're just a number to get the grant, to sustain the grant, but it's never about, it never gets to a point where we're fixing the problems. We're just trying to exploit the problems, and we're not trying to grow and develop the talent that are on the front lines working these programs. And that's what I experienced. I just felt like you know too much, you're not falling in line, so you're expendable. And then the other thing is, once you get fired from these programs, you have, like in my case, a black cis woman, or sometimes it's a white cis gay man, other times it's a white trans man, who, when you try to get a job at another place, bitch, they soil your whole reputation. And you already know how hard it is for us as black trans women to find sustainable employment. But I personally know of situations where people try to tarnish your reputation so you'll never be able to work again. And these things really happen.
Like in your case, even though for anyone that would know your countenance, your anointing makes room for you. So anyone that has been around you and knows your countenance would know that such an accusation wasn't true. The idea that was just thrown out there against you means that now that's something in that if you weren't the kind of bitch where that was an obvious, oh, that's impossible, that could have been something that would destroy your career. I mean, really?
Right. No shade, bitch. That experience, that made me never want to work in nonprofit again. I was like, if this is what it is, I don't. And but on the flip side, it's also what inspired me to make my own organization, because I was like, if I'm going to do this activism thing, I can never work for anybody else ever again, because I don't want to be taken advantage of in that
Carolina,
way.
Bring your ass back. I'm sorry.
Ooh, I don't ever want to be taken advantage of in that way ever again. And that's what inspired me to open the Baltimore Trans Alliance, where it was for trans people, ran by trans people, because I know firsthand how a lot of these cis folks like to act like they care about community and act like they're in community, but really they're just exploiting us. They're just exploiting us for the numbers and for the monies, but they're not really invested in us. You're lucky if you go to a place and they're invested in you growing to a point where you'll be able to leave that organization and go on to do other things. Like it's very rare that you find that, especially for Black trans women. But that experience was so traumatizing for me, bitch. No shade. I did have to turn to sex work because I didn't have the 17. Even though I did get unemployment, it wasn't enough. Bitch, I had a car note, I had rent to pay, I had signed up for school, I had to go to school, and then
I'm gonna say this. Oh, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Swiss.
And then when I did get a job, I think I took a job at Walgreens, like making like $7 something an hour.
Wow.
But I was that desperate to never work in anything trans related again. I took it.
So let me tell you this. So let me tell you about, I had this kind of commitment to the work that I felt like, because let me say this, I had a very strong trans family, and my trans family did the work that I did in community. And so part of my rite of passage in working with these older, mature women who had founded nonprofits for themselves, part of it was they were working with these orgs. So then it was almost like I didn't know how to do community. I had to learn. Community really helped me develop a lot of the things that I now hold dear today. But I also learned to be very insecure about my skill set because of community. And because of that, I was codependent on organizations that told me that I was worthless, but because I couldn't get a job, when it was time for the grant to come back again, we want you to come on as a consultant. We need you to use you. We want to offer you the job and actually give you an offer letter, tell you you have the job, and never call you back, because that has happened to me more than once. We want to find a way to associate ourselves with you. And I would always suckle on the tip of the poisonous tree because I didn't know how to separate myself from the cause, wanting to be useful to the movement. So I sort of allowed myself to continuously be around toxic people, because now part of it is accountability. Part of it is me not having a Brianna and a Samaya as a possibility model to tell me on how to make myself, how to help community, but also sustain myself. There is this narrative, this toxic narrative in community, that if you really down with the cause, you'll do this for free. And if you're really down with the cause, you'll understand that we're just trying to figure shit out. So it's okay for us to mistreat you. It's okay for us to overextend you. It's okay for us to ask you to do things that aren't reasonable because, you know, we're doing what we got to do. And so then you have a whole community of talented individuals that haven't learned how to properly set professional boundaries. And as a result, they are walking around allowing people to mistreat them. I didn't even know a lot of the laws and things applied to me because I worked in the nonprofit world. So here I am sometimes working 8 hours, and then that's all I was getting paid for. But of course we had an event that was after work and then a group after that. And so, but I was not getting paid for that stuff. And I'm hourly. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know how to advocate for myself because there was not a possibility model for that. So I want to also I want to invite that now that you know, for those of you who are in community, all the laws and rules apply to you. You have the right to get protections in the workplace. You have the right to a respectable time of work. You have a right to have reasonable work expectations. You have a right to have things codified and defined. A lot of people were able to take advantage of me because they were like, well, we don't have time to get into that right now. We're just trying to make things happen. And so I promise you more will come as we get more systems set up. Okay. I know I'm just, but I just need you to kind of trust me. And every time I kind of trusted, I kind of got fucked. Because I was one of those people that was committed to the cause. A lot of us are in this work not for the money, because let's be transparent. There's more money to be made a lot of times even in sex work than working in community.
Right.
That they're not throwing us millions of dollars. They're oftentimes not even giving us livable wages. So let's not act like these nonprofits are paying us out the wazoo, because they're not. But let's be not, and even if they are paying us okay, they're still not paying us what somebody in the corporate world would make in our positions. They're not paying us a competitive wage either.
And a lot of times we're doing twice the jobs or even 3 times the jobs.
For not even the one competitive wage. Because again, you Black and trans, how dare you? You should be excited that we invited your Black ass in here. Right. That's how it very much feels. But anyway, when we're navigating in the world, a lot of times these nonprofits will pick up on our thirst and they will exploit it. And I found that I was a very thirsty woman, thirsty to be relevant, thirsty to want to belong, thirsty because those same nonprofits that are mistreating me are also the only service provider dealing with our community. And they also are the only group in town that provides food, and I need to eat because I'm homeless. I've been there. So it is very unfortunate because even after these nonprofits fired me, they were the same place I was getting services. So I could never not be caught in the cycle of being misused.
Right.
And it was just and I think we need to discuss, we need to, as a community, do better about supporting trans women and trans men and trans individuals, and particularly Black, queer, trans folk. We really need to empower ourselves to be able to come together and fight and be more honest and open about our stories to one another so that we can galvanize and actually call out these nonprofits. And there's some interesting... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think that the reason that the cycle has just been able to continue, and that's just one of the things that really disturbs me about this topic, is how it just happens so frequently. It's one girl in, one girl out, one girl in, one girl out. And the nonprofits, they really help to create and maintain fissures in our community because we're at the bottom of the totem pole, we're already adversarial in nature. So when you have girls fighting and competing to have stable employment and to be economically independent, and you're just cycling and going through girls and creating distrust among trans women, that really it creates fractures in community. And when you are the girl that gets that position and you're in community, then you become that girl. You become that, just like how I was talking about how when I got the job, my first manager or supervisor, she had that reputation of being that girl. Oh, that's the girl don't trust her. She just uses the girls for numbers, or she's just used it. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's like you're damned if you get the job, but you're damned to be that girl, but then you're damned to have another girl try to come and throw you under the bus to get the same job, only to turn around 6 months to a year later to have the same thing happen to her. And because we're divided, we as a community can't press a lot of these organizations to be accountable for how they treat us, whether we're being serviced or whether we're working there, adding value, adding equity to their organization. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's and like I said, I was kind of ambivalent about talking about this topic because I'm like, well, this is going on almost 10 years since I had that type of job, and I don't even though I do legal work and trans and Black issues are my focus, it's not on a like that type of nonprofit level. I keep getting phone calls that the same things are continuing to happen, particularly to Black trans women that come in educated now more than ever, educated, poised, ready to do work. But because of the systems in place, we're always the first ones to be thrown under the bus and to lose our jobs. So it just blows my mind that even almost 10 years later, these things are still happening, particularly to Black trans women who are qualified and who show up to do the job. And it's just very disheartening. But no shade, even though I was making $7 at Walgreens, bitch, it made me feel so good to have my supervisor tell me you're doing a great job. No shit, I even got like 2 promotions within my first 3 months of being at Walgreens. So even though I went through that traumatic thing of being fired, being made to feel like I wasn't worth being there or I was useless in that arena, to go to a simple job like Walgreens in the suburb and to have people praise me for attributes that had nothing to do with me being trans or me working in the trans community, that was helpful for me to realize that, I don't, because a lot of times those jobs make you feel like because you're trans, that's all that you'll ever be able to do. So I appreciate, even though it was a step down, it was everything I needed to humble myself and to open my world up that I could exist outside of this trans bubble, because of fear and insecurities that I went through while at that nonprofit job. And I've been running ever since. But I also know, and I think it's also important to highlight on the show, even I'm originally from Maryland, and I have the privilege of coming from a state where there are trained anti-trans discrimination protections. And I know
fully rep your set, girl. Fully rep your set. Where in Maryland?
Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore, but I know that you're in Georgia. Even though you're in Atlanta, you're in the state of Georgia, and just from you and me talking personally, it's a whole, even though we went through the same thing structurally, it's a different world for trans women trying to fight for like on the job discrimination in the state of Georgia.
True. And so legally here, it's just not the place to be. I'm gonna just keep it transparent. What we have done though, in particularly in Atlanta, particularly in some of the suburbs like East Point and other places, what we have done is carved out these liberal niches where you can get in, where you fit in. Now, on a deeper level, this is still Georgia. So of course, the people, Atlanta's a city that is a lot of people come from a lot of different places. So you do have the benefit of having a lot of different points of view around you. But on the flip side, you often can sometimes be in a situation where very quickly outside of city limits, you hit Georgia. And it's very difficult here for us as a community to really, really, really bloom in the way we truly want in such a conservative place with the discrimination laws deteriorating by the day. So I want to just take a moment to just thank the people that have the courage to still do this work in Georgia. Thank you to all the nonprofits. Thank you to the leaders. Thank you to the people that are doing the work, that are engaging, that are building. I am a part of that community, and I am proud of the work that we do. And I want to say that because this is a very, very unique place to be. And a lot of us know we have targets on our back. We know that by doing this work, it is now makes it more difficult to get jobs outside of this community. Because that's another reality. Being that this is a state that has very, very strict laws around certain things and laws that are deteriorating all the time sometimes, even though these cities are liberal places, a lot of times these are the jobs that we have. But the people that are coming into the city are driving from all parts of Georgia. And they come with their value systems, and they come with their biases, and they come with their beliefs, and they come with their religion. And a lot of that is, I don't feel comfortable. Even if I agree that you shouldn't be killed, even if I agree that you should be able to exist just the same as me, most people, a lot of people in the Bible Belt believe that we are something that is to be discouraged, even if they don't want to necessarily see our demise. And so it's harder to get jobs. And then when you have my last job being this trans program at this nonprofit, it immediately labels you as one of those. And it's very, very difficult to get jobs outside the community here. And so that is also the cycle that is perpetuated. There's the reason why we are all still applying for jobs at places that have never shown us to be in our best interest, or that promised to and had no strategy for accurately engaging with us for real. So then it failed. And instead of them re-engaging community and addressing the concerns that could make the thing prosper, they would rather see it die than actually reach out to the people that they said they did this for. Because again, I think I'm better than you. I'm doing this for you, not with you.
Right. And what I want to say is, I don't want to say don't take the job if the opportunity is presented. What I want to say, I just want to give people foresight so they can read the writing on the wall.
Exactly.
Know that there is a highly likelihood, particularly if you are a Black trans woman, particularly if you are a Black educated trans woman that comes in, with the skill and the wherewithal to do the job. Know that there are these other systems at play, and they might all collude to try to take you out of there. So if you go get it, and this is my motto now, even working in my legal jobs, I'm not married to any company that I do not own, because I know at the end of the day, if you don't own it, they can get rid of you. My strategy is to go in, get the money, get the coin, get the experience, and get the skills you need, and have a plan B. Like don't go in there expecting it to give like a factory job to you. Go in there, you go in there, you use them as a stepping stone. You use them as a stepping stone to get to where you. And that's one thing. Even during my experience, I knew I was not always going to be there at the job, and maybe that was part of my problem, that my executive director saw that in me, that I wasn't that girl that was just hopeless. I know I'm going to be somebody. This is just so you have to go in and use it as a stepping stone, but know that just because, and I had to grow out of this. I thought because I was the girl with the college degree that the world was just going to open up for me, and it just was not that. That was not the case. Like, you have to get out here. You have to work. You have to know that these systems that are in place, so that when it happens to you, it's not a shock, or you can prepare for it. Because the truth is, they still see us as disposable, because you see this happen at so many levels all the time. And whether you're in a state that doesn't have any protections, or whether you're in a state that does have lots of protections, the truth is they still see us as disposable, and they would rather have us as clients and as numbers than work with us and build with us. And that's just the ugly truth about the situation. But now that you know the truth, you have other options available to you. What were you going to say, sis?
No. You were fine. I just, this topic is something that I feel like we really need to unpack, because there's also levels to the predatory way that we even engage with each other in community. And this is just speaking to in general, and a way we need to handle us. And I feel like it could also be a part of a sisterhood conversation,
Right.
like unpacking the ways that our strategies of survival affect the way we engage, like the things that we've done, our backgrounds, our past, because we don't come as like these, these blank slates. We come with an entire narrative that has been inscribed on our heart and on our spirits, and like all of that informs how we show up in the space. And I feel like I would also like to talk about the way in which we engage one another and the toxic things that we do to each other that can dismantle all of the goodwill of all of us. I have been in situations, and I have observed situations where there are Black trans women who see another woman in a certain position and immediately will target her because they see that there's not much to do in this community. And they come with this hunger to be the leader because that's what they envision for themselves. And since there's not a lot of opportunity and not a lot of funding divided evenly, because there's a lot of money, just not divided evenly.
Right.
So because it's people getting the lion's share, it's all of us trying to say we reach this population of people, but you're going to give all the money to one nonprofit so that they can do what? Exploit it, because at the end of the day, we're the same population size.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. In the situation with this, it's like we need to, as a community, have a strategy that involves holding each other better than and giving each other the benefit of the doubt, even if and actually like approaching the person that you have an issue with, because most of the time, it really fucked up, the girls will get you fired over some shit that's personal.
Right.
As if that your personal issue with them has any bearing on the community. And so then when we do that, that makes all of us look silly. It makes all of us look capricious. It makes all of us look just on. You can't take the community seriously when they don't even take their own leadership seriously.
Right.
And so it's also respecting the leadership of the people that are actually doing this work and not trying to come in and tear another bitch down. Because I honestly feel like, you know how in the Black community, though we don't speak in monolith in general, that's something that we talked about, this crab in a barrel syndrome. I feel like it is almost concentrated too in this work, because a lot of us have not been affirmed in our regular life. A lot of us have not been ever affirmed by our families and even the people that purport to love us. A lot of us can't even be affirmed by our partners. So then a lot of the girls, they come with this need for attention, this need for affirmation, this need for somebody to validate them. And unfortunately, when you have that kind of need and you bring it into a workplace, you have somebody that can be a drain and can actually, at all costs, they're going to try to get that need met because they're in such a thirst for it. And it's not their fault. I'm not saying it's necessarily the community's fault that we are often denied love. But a lot of times people will get in these positions or come to community with this, like, I got to get all the attention. I have to get all of the validation because this is deeper for me. And we're so passionate. And those are the girls that'll be crying at every event. This is just so much deeper for me. And it's like, sis, it's deep for all of us, or we wouldn't be here. It is deep. This is deep. And that's not to trivialize anyone's emotions, but it is to, like, let's also be transparent that a lot of us need to learn how to be team players. Right. And a lot of us need to learn how to collaborate. And that's what I said. Right. Sisterhood is about knowing that there are many positions in the kingdom and all of them are important for the work to get done. But if you are invested in worrying about what I'm doing in my position, how then can you focus on yours? And then when you get me fired, and now you use stereotypes to get me fired. So if you tell the people I stole your booth phone and you get me fired, and then now the next girl that fired me, she feeling away only until they do the same to her. You know why? Right. Because the fact didn't defend me in that moment, the fact that you didn't tell those people, no, that's not going down like that, is the reason why they were able to do it. And you thought you were going to be immune, but now that you've allowed them to think that way about us, they think that way about you too.
Right. Yeah, and I think we need to work on believe. Again, it's that communication piece, learning to communicate and talk with each other and getting to learn girls for yourself. Like, again, circling back to that first thing, I heard so many things about my supervisor, and now getting to know her, she is some tea. She's a special cookie, but she's none of those bad things that other people told me about her to get me to not get to know her. I did it. I wasn't going to. I'm not going to villainize another trans woman until I experience her for myself. And getting to know, and had I would have fell into the hype, and no shade, they probably did this. They probably have said the same thing about me, because we tend to do that in community. We say we want girls to get all the education and to get their things, but then when girls go out here and get it, it's kind of like we're other. Like, oh, she thinks she's that girl, and and it's like, and my rebut to that is like, sis, I'm not doing anything that no other girl couldn't do. I'm just like in a little better situation because I have stability at home with my family that allows me to go and do all of these things. But in all actuality, I'm not doing anything that any other girl couldn't do or could probably do better than me, quite frankly. But because of how our community is set up, we feel like there's only room for one of us to shine at a time. And this story or this narrative of Black trans women going to these nonprofits, going to work at these medical places that cater to the LGBT community, it's literally been happening for decades, where you get skilled and talented trans women, and the first second you get to throw them under the bus and bring their girlfriend in to pay them for half the cost, they do it. And I think the beauty of this podcast is we're able to bring our experiences together and just have that collective kitchen table talk, and just to get it out. Because no shade, I've never really talked about the circumstances of why I left that job, because for a long time I was ashamed about it. I felt like I let the community down for the longest time. I felt stupid. I felt embarrassed about it. And to talk to my other community members and to know that I wasn't alone in that, it was so important for us to bring that conversation to this space, because we don't know who's going through that right now as we speak. And I really want to play a part in interrupting those systems, and also telling the girls that just because you're trans, if you don't want to, you don't have to work in those places. I think the beauty of this time is because there are states that there are so many trans women that are able to go and get jobs, and they don't have to navigate in these systems, which I think is the blessings. But for those that still have to, as elders in the community, we just want to, we don't want to withhold information. We want to give you guys all the information that you need so you can make informed decisions, and you can just be aware of systems that continue to happen. But I guess to end this story off, you there, girl?
I'm right here.
To end the story off, so after I started, so I did see my executive director again after I got fired. Also, I think it was foul that the executive director, instead of her firing me, she had another Black trans woman fire me, which I think is very late. And it's the same way how white people use other Black people to do their bidding, which is really fierce and late. But what ended up happening is about like 3 or 4 years later, after the Baltimore Trans Alliance was up and running, and we were about to have our first march, I got invited to do this radio show about the march and about trans issues. And who is co-hosting the radio show? Mind you, a show dedicated to trans and queer issues, but the executive director from my old nonprofit. And she looked like she saw a ghost when she saw me there. She looked like she saw a ghost. And it was one of them looks like, I didn't ever expect to see you here. And I didn't ever expect you to amount to anything after you left my organization. And it was kind of like a full circle moment for me. Like, yeah, bitch, you fired me, but I'm still here and I'm still relevant. And you're having me on your show to talk about a whole movement that I created that you had no part in and that you will never have any part in, because this is created by trans people for trans people. And we were talking throughout the thing, and she was interjecting on like trans specific questions, answering as if she was a trans woman. And one time throughout the interview, I had to ask, I'm like, are there any more trans people in this conversation? I thought I was the only trans one here. And then if so, why are you interjecting and talking from the point of view of a trans woman, talking about, well, we go through, are you trans now, sis? Like, is this what this is about? And then I ended up getting into it with the host, who was a butch queen, who, bitch, I'm there on a radio show talking about marching for trans lives because trans women in Baltimore were dropping like flies at the time. And you asking me about the first time I knew I was fucking trans. Why are you asking me that question, bitch? And then at the end of the show, this crazy executive director, God forgive me, I was about to say something else. When we end the show, she says she thanks God for AIDS and HIV.
Oh, whatever you was about to say, girl, she is very that.
She thanks God for AIDS and HIV because it allows her to do the work that she does. So in that moment, I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that that lady was a nut job, and I had no reason to be mad or to feel any type of way because God took me out of that environment.
God let you know you was with the insane.
And it was so bad that the Butch Queen host, the old Butch Queen host who me and him was getting into it, we both looked at her like, excuse me. But it just goes to show you the level of crazy that tried to sit and block my blessing and block what I was trying to do. And the whole time it's like, sis, I needed to get away from you so I could really jumpstart the movement and do what needed to be done. And it happened. So I guess I said that to kind of end that on a key and a positive note. But yeah, honey, read the room, read the writing on the wall. And if you don't feel value, you had even if they make you feel like you're worthless or you don't have any value, you as Black trans people have value outside of these organizations, and know that they don't bring value to you. You bring value to them and to their organization.
Say that again.
You as Black trans people bring value and prestige to their organization. Because without you, they wouldn't be able to access and exploit the communities in the ways in which they do. They need you to, so don't ever be made to feel like you are insignificant or you don't play a part. You do.
Oh, I also want to say this too. I want to also say we need to also remember and focus our energy and our love and our light towards Black trans founded led organizations.
Exactly.
So there's some wonderful great ones out there. I just want to give out just a quick shout out to my sister Jasmine Tasaki. I want to give a shout out to Darrenisha Duncan. I want to give a shout out to Tony Michelle. You guys are doing great work. These are 3 women that I know in the Southeast that are moving and shaking in their Black trans-led organizations. And I want to make sure that I honor them in this moment because we want to also shed light on the things that are working and the things that are trying to work towards our benefit. And also, I also want to give a shout out to Tilt, Trans Individuals Living Their Truth Incorporated, which is my nonprofit that I am privileged to be the executive director of here in Atlanta, Georgia. There are Black trans-led organizations, and they were founded through pain, founded through unique circumstances, but yet still we rise.
So I think we're going to end this conversation here. Before we leave, do you want to tell them about the group, the Facebook group?
I would love to, darling. So the illustrious Aeon had the great idea of creating a space, because what we're realizing, guys, is we are all about conversation right now. Of course, we're fledgling, we're building our business, and what sustains us, because it's definitely not, we're not in it for the money now. So what sustains us is the ability to engage and have conversation at a deeper level with our fans. And we thought, how can we come up with a way that we can capture these great conversations and provide a safe space for our listeners to be able to unpack the conversation. The group will also be a way for you to be informed about the conversation, because as we find articles online, as we see things, we'll be sharing those things to the group. So then, like today, we were talking about a few of the topics before we started our main topic. We pulled those things from internet stories. So feel free to follow the Lioness, follow Brianna Jenkins on Facebook, and make sure, guys, that you also follow this group. The group will be titled Box Number 512 Podcast Group. Feel free to go in there, give us your talk about any and everything, join the conversation, post. We want to dialogue, because that is what we really realize. We're the gift that we have is to forge, start, and hold conversation.
So we will see you guys next Friday with the new episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, rate our show. Also, if you have any questions or listener letters, write into our show, DM us, email us at boxnumber512podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, bye, you guys.
Bye, y'all. Love you, Bree.
Thank you for listening to Box Number 512.
And don't forget to subscribe and like all of our pages on social media.
And don't forget to subscribe so you can see what we'll stock on the shelf next week. Bye.